We're going to get started now, and I'm looking forward to this. I've been waiting like a year for this, so this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, don't say that. Oh, there's a picture of the back of the projector. Wow. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, they don't do that. They don't do that. It's counted only as
May the force be
the base school comes and then yeah, that's what he was saying too.
Oh, hey, there it is. There it is. You're there. Yeah. No, I mean, I can plug it into my laptop.
Take the audio out of the back of the computer.
Here is. Why you should not be late for your presentations. Or early, then. It's like being in those horror films, you know, when it's quiet, so you know something's bad gonna happen. It's like the oracle is going to speak, so. Well, be quiet, the oracle is about to speak. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, that was quite an introduction, quite an entrance that I made. Didn't expect all of that. That's cool. Okay, so this afternoon, we're going to talk about PowerPoint. You're going to need PowerPoint like you've never seen it before. PowerPoint is not a slideshow thing that you just put pictures on and no. PowerPoint is an amazing tool for teaching language, English, whatever language you choose. Alright? So, let's get started. If you have your phones with your QR scanner, QR codes, you can get the full version of this PowerPoint online. Excellent. One of our pictures broke. I'm also making it available to NAER so you can get a copy if you don't have your okay. Alright, so let's just get started. Okay, so my talk today is on the power of PowerPoint. Got 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2.
We need more time.
Hold on. I got it. Sorry. Got it?
No.
No?
Yeah, we're good.
I'm trying to read it.
Okay, if you don't have it, it's okay. You'll get a copy. The full version will be available to you, so you can get it from your computers. That's that blue thing on the bottom. If I search that, would I get this? That is the shortened URL, so if you type that in, you would get it. Yeah.
Is this the same?
It's in the book? Should be in the book, right?
Is that?
Yeah, it's in the book, so you can scan it in the book. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It says, whoops, the file's too large to preview. Oh, wow.
Okay, so you have to download.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, my topic today is the power of PowerPoint to enhance second language or language instruction. My name is Randall James. I'm the foreign English teacher at Gongwan Elementary School, which I must say is the best school this side of the visible universe. It's just the truth, that's okay. All right?
We're going to vote on that.
You what?
We'll be voting on that.
No, I have all the votes.
No, you don't.
Thank you.
I have the age.
Alright, so this is our outline for today's presentation. Meet your presenter, my teaching philosophy, the importance of comprehensive input, PowerPoint activities including posts, reading activities, question and answers, challenge activities, ultimate gamification, I call it that fancy name, it's just Jeopardy game, and the PowerPoint tutorial. I want this to be as interactive and as practical as possible. So I'm just going to show off a little bit when I'm done, and then I want you guys to actually practice creating your own PowerPoint presentations. Alright, so let's begin by meeting this here. I'm currently reading for a master's in instructional design and technology at the University of the West Indies, which basically means that I'm studying how to teach stuff online. I'm a foreign English teacher at Women Elementary School in 2016. My old school back home is called Miku Secondary School. I was interim vice president last year. I've been teaching IT and English since 2003. I was a year head for these 5 years, which means I was responsible for kids from grade 7 through 11. So basically we were like the mini vice principals. We took care of everything, discipline, graduation, development, everything fell on our plates. And I was a resource manager, librarian. As you can see, it was about the same time. All right, so always very busy. I was rather the first president of the View Fort chapter of Volunteer St. Lucia. I'm a lion. Any lions in here? Any lions in here? Any Rotary members in here? Good. All right. 2015, 2016, I was the community services chairperson, which means that I was responsible for the projects we did in the community. I think our greatest achievement that year was free community health fair. We had a whole bunch of different medical services available, vaccinations, but we did things like massage therapy, glucose testing, and so on. And I was also the advisor for the Leo Club, which is the young lions ages 12 through 18. Okay, so this is me in a nutshell. Yes,
Is Beaufort a city?
Beaufort is a very small town in a very small island called St. Lucia. Yeah. To give you St. Lucia has 160,000 people. That's how small it is. And Taiwan is 60 times bigger than St. Lucia. So it's like really super tiny. My town maybe had, I don't know, 20,000 people. Yeah. So I knew pretty much everyone in the town. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, good. My teaching philosophy it can be described as functional contextualism. It's just a big fancy term which means that I do not stick to any particular field of instruction. I'm not behaviorist, neither am I constructivist, neither am I, what's the other one? Cognitivist, right? But I do what I think is necessary to teach in the moment, right? So the key points, right, it's to build an empirical science for learning and instruction. In other words, as I said to Jean, if you're going to do something in the classroom, it has to be grounded in theory. I don't think you should just do something just because you feel you should. At least have some backing of some theory before you do something, especially when it comes to second language instruction. I mean, it's very, very simple what we do, or it seems very simple. You're teaching, what, 2 sentences and 10 words for a unit. It seems like it's very, very easy and simple, but why are you doing what you're doing? When you say something to a kid, do they really get it? Right? Alright, so knowledge is constructed, not acquired. For me in my classes, we have a social learning structure where the kids are actually the ones teaching each other. The co-teacher and I are there just to facilitate the process. It's a very key word in my instruction. We facilitate, we do not only instruct directly. Right? Evidence-based education, I just already mentioned this one. Technology with a purpose. It's all well and fine to come with a fancy PowerPoint, but why are you doing it? Is it just to occupy the time or to be fancy? Or is it actually going to be effective? Instructional objectives are very important, and the word objectives here comes from the behaviorist school, where we're looking at specific outcomes of your instruction. So after you have taught, the kids should be able to demonstrate certain skills. So after you've taught, are they able to identify 10 colors correctly, for example? Are they able to change irregular verbs correctly into the past tense. Specific objectives, very important. All right, and PSI, which is a system developed by Keller, a personalized system of instruction. One of my biggest gripes about teaching in Taiwan is that a lot of it seems to be kind of middle of the road, world-class teaching, which we know is not effective. All right, so I try to personalize as much as possible within the limits that I have. Okay, my pet theories. Information processing theory, which means that the brain kind of works like a computer. All right, what do you focus on when you are in a room?
The most interesting thing I can find.
Very good. It's the most interesting thing that you can find, which right now is this sexy guy, right? So you focus on what is the most important, interesting thing inside the room. There is a lot of stuff going on right now with your bodies inside and outside, but you're focusing on me because your brain is telling you this guy up front is the guy you are supposed to focus on. Anyone here hungry, thirsty, tired, sleepy, want to poop? All that goes out the window, and all you're thinking about is what this guy is saying, right? Schema and meaningful learning. Anyone know what a schema is?
Existing knowledge.
It's existing knowledge, which tells us how to deal with new knowledge, right? Schema and meaningful learning theory. One of the issues I have in Taiwan, the kids have in Taiwan, is that they're wondering, why on earth do I have to learn English? It's not meaningful because they're sitting in a classroom learning these words and so on, but they never get to use it. So our kids are lucky because they have an English speaker in their presence with whom they can actually communicate and use whatever they've learned. So the learning becomes much more meaningful. Make sense? Make sense? Yeah. Right? Piaget's cognitive development. Anyone know about Piaget? I think we all know about Piaget and what he said about learning and so on, right? We're looking at learning occurring in different stages. So there are certain age-appropriate activities that we do with kids, and one of the big ones is actually play. Do we use games in our classrooms? Yeah, play. Vygotsky from Social Formation of Mind. Anyone know about this guy?
Zone of proximal development.
He's the progress zone instruction.
What?
He's the guy.
Right, the zone of proximal development, where he says what happens is you get information that you don't know how to deal with, that is new, confusing, and so on. And in your struggles to deal with that information, right, to help managers, to try to use your schema to manage it, you actually begin to learn. Think about it. When do you really learn stuff? Is it when you know stuff that already are you being told? Or when the stuff that you are learning or that you are being exposed to, you don't know about it? Anyone? Well, it's when you don't know, right? And when you don't know, you get into that zone of proximal development where things become very, very confusing. And when you get out of it, what happens? You've gained your knowledge. You've stuck more stuff now into your schema. Does that make sense? You also said very importantly, and I think this is something which always amazes me, that social interaction precedes cognition. In other words, you get smarter, you learn stuff when you interact with other people. And he's not just talking about your teacher, right? How many of us learn stuff from our kids all the time? Think about it. Right? You learn stuff when you interact socially with people. Whether you are in a formal structure in the classroom, or you are just kind of hanging out and doing stuff. You learn stuff socially. So in my classrooms, a lot of the interaction is very, very social. The kids get to inform each other, inform me, correct each other, and so on. And by doing this, what's happening, they're creating social links, but during that, they're actually learning stuff. Right? Bandura's social cognition, which is basically very similar to Vygotsky. Social interaction is what breeds cognition. So there has to be social interaction within your classrooms. That is why I'm trying to get you guys to respond to no one's saying anything. Alright, okay, cool. And ARC's system of motivation, relevance, attention, satisfaction, and confidence. The 4 ingredients that are needed for learners to be motivated. Do you really learn something if you're not satisfied? After you've done this whole program of instruction in PowerPoints, and you don't have you really done anything?
You rejected it.
You rejected, exactly. Relevance. Is it relevant to you? Is it relevant to you? Yeah. So then you're going to pay attention. Attention. If the speaker is not engaging or interesting or exciting, pay attention. Right?
I presented a PowerPoint. I'm concerned about him.
Okay. Attention, and this goes back to information processing theory. You have to be able to pay attention to whatever it is that's going on for you to learn it. Otherwise, it's going to go in one ear and back out that ear. Right? So you have to pay attention. And confidence. Can anyone explain this one?
Confidence in your own ability to learn.
Exactly. Confidence in your own ability to learn. And especially when it comes to instruction. And I am a terrible example of this. That I'm learning Chinese, but I'm so scared a lot of the times to say anything to it. So I have to be confident in my own ability to learn Chinese and speak Chinese for me to be properly motivated. Right? Alright, so let's continue with the importance of comprehensible input, which basically means that you want to find a way to, sorry, yes?
Just wondering about the confidence thing. What's your approach when a student has none?
Has what?
None.
That's where the PSI, the personalized system of instruction comes in.
Yeah.
You've got to find ways to do it. Whether you reward them, you pull them aside, there's just ways that you would do it. You just got to find, each child would be different.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I like to do is when a particularly reluctant child is presenting, so everyone quiet, listen, this child is going to present. Right? It puts them on the spot, it does. But then from that experience, you can develop the confidence to actually speak out in class and know that it's okay to be wrong. Because we're doing social learning, we can correct each other in a nice way.
So comfortable.
You can create a comfortable environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have the experience where we have kids in our class and they are afraid to speak out, so we do pairs if they have to speak up front.
Yeah.
They have their higher level friends,
Right,
classmate in their ear, word for word sometimes. This, that, the other, this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You know, and that's like the setup to practice. And this past testing session, I had one student, when I first came to the school, I can't. No,
Right.
he even said I can't in Chinese. And this was the first conversation test that he did, that he read his sentences himself. And it was hard. No, it was not perfect. But you know what? When he was done, the whole class just broke out and clapping for him.
Absolutely. One of the things the kids here need to understand is that it's okay to be bad at English. It's okay to make mistakes. That's when you really learn. You make mistakes, you get the correction. That's when you really get to learn. Right? So the confidence thing, Anthony, is actually a very big deal for the kids here. A lot of them are very shy and unwilling to speak.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I want to kind of piggyback on that.
Sure.
Like, I would sometimes, before the students share out, I would have them do like a partner practice first. So they actually practice the material first. And then, when they're ready, I say, okay, now you can present. Instead of kind of the other way around.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things I'm going to show you is the PowerPoint Jeopardy game that I have. And the way it's set up is that every kid has to pick from the board, but they can have their pairs feed them the answer, like you were saying. But they have to respond themselves. Okay? Alright, so that's confidence. Okay, so the importance of comprehensible input. And I'm sorry I'm going very quickly through this because I just want to get to the PowerPoints. Alright, this fellow is called Max. Right? And Max is my class A. So what Max does is speaks.
Hello, my name is Max. What's your name?
What's your name? What's your name?
Elliot.
This is a PowerPoint. This is a PowerPoint thing. And I told you. And the great thing about Max is Max also speaks a bit of Chinese. Matthew, can you read this?
你好，我的名字是 Max，你叫什么名字？
PowerPoint. So Max helps me throughout my lessons. Okay. This is yeah. All right. This is one of the staples of my presentations. It's called the word bank. Right? It's just the vocabulary that the kids have to use or learn during the lesson. So of course, Max also explains what.
The word bank has some important words in the story.
Right. So you get to listen, you get to read at the same time. Right. What are we gonna do? Turn to page 53. So if you don't know how to read the words, you sure as hell can read the numbers. And if you can't read the numbers, you can match them to the page numbers. Alright? And all of this happens without me saying a word. I just show Max on the screen. Those who can read will read. But they know what's coming up because they know word bank. Right? And eventually get to page whatever, and then you turn to page 53. And I like doing this because eventually it's going to stick in their heads without me saying anything, without me directly instructing them, turn to page 53, turn to page whatever. Eventually they will remember what they're supposed to do, right? And hopefully remember that the actual language that is used to give the instructions. All right, so speaking of math comprehensible input, what is this?
Sandwich.
No. These are sandwiches. I don't use single words in the classroom. You have to use phrases or sentences. You say sandwiches, if you forget sandwiches, that's it, you forget everything. But if you say these are sandwiches, maybe you forget one word, right? At least you have the rest of the sentence to hold you up. And it's something I learned learning Chinese as well. That a lot of times people would say things to you but not use the measure words. Well, that sucks. Because without the measure word, you've lost half the word. I mean, you can say iga, but you need the actual measure word for you to be, well, I mean, you'll be understood anyway, but the measure word makes the word much more correct. So in the very same way when I'm teaching English, I don't use just those short phrases or sentences or just words. I use complete sentences. These are sandwiches. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. All right. So now let's get into our actual PowerPoint activities. These are post-reading activities. These are things that I do after we've read through the text in the book. And we've answered the 3 very simple questions at the end of the chapter. Now the books we use are called Hello Kids, and they're based on fairy tales. So next semester, book 8, we were looking at Gulliver's Travels. This semester we did Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood. Right? So after we've read, then we can do a whole bunch of reading activities. I like the true or false activities because they have to answer true or false, but then they have to give the correct response. So it's not just a one-word answer. What's missing? Well, this is what it looks like. Summer reading, fall reading, and winter reading, just depending on the season, just to make it cute. All right, so let's get into our true or false. So again, we have Max. Come on, Max. Okay, I think.
This activity is true or false. Let's read the instructions.
So can you read the instructions? Okay, who can translate into Chinese?
就是读句子。
Do you understand? All right, good. So read the sentences, and I always put this little GIF down here of SpongeBob reading, because prior to the actual lesson, they've done the classroom English, so they know that this means read. So even though they don't understand the entire sentence, they can understand what's going on, what they're supposed to do. Right? 2.
Are they true or false?
And I usually say true or false. So true or false. They always love this. Right? And number 3. Give the correct answer. Right? Can someone translate? Give the correct answer.
给正确答案。
Hmm? And I'm always like, what? Okay, so give the correct answer. All right, fine. So, true or false? Let's read number 1.
Granny.
Let's read number 1. Granny and Little Red are brave. Okay, so here's a picture. True or false?
False.
Okay, so that's false. Okay, let's read number 2. Sorry. Give the correct answer.
Not brave.
Or scared.
Okay, you could say they're scared or they're not brave. Right? Let's read number 2.
The wolf is hungry.
I'm not looking for that one, but the answer is yes. Let's read number 3.
Hunter likes the wolf.
Okay, that is also that's false.
The wolf
has a big nose.
It is true. And the last one.
Granny and Little Red are scared.
Notice that it's the same question, right? It's a true false. So is it true or false?
Oh, false.
It's true or false? False. Okay, so give the correct answer.
Granny and Little Red are brave.
They're
Happy.
They're happy. Now in this case, do you say that they are brave?
No.
No, they're not.
They're not being brave, they're just being happy.
Right.
Right? Okay, so that's true or false. This one is called
What's missing?
What's Missing? Enhancing Recall. Alright, so our instructions again, read the sentences, respond to reading, some words are missing, add the missing words. Alright? This is a grade 6 activity. The topic was something about the weather. So, and they were outdoor activities, fishing, camping, hiking. Right? So you see the text. There is nothing here that they've not seen before. But their first reaction is, I'm like, what? Right? There's nothing here that they've not seen before. And even if there are new words or phrases or expressions, it's a teachable moment. Right? Someone in the class is guaranteed to know and can explain to the kids what they're reading. Alright, so this is Jimmy. He wants to go hiking and camping around Taiwan. On Monday, he is in the south of Taiwan. On Monday, he's in the west of Taiwan. Right? It's southwest, I guess.
Sunny.
It's sunny. On Thursday and
Friday.
Thursday and Friday he's in the south. Thursday and Friday he's in the south. He is in the north and east of Taiwan on Tuesday. Now why am I doing this? Because it's hard. Quite frankly, because it's hard. It's challenging. I could simply say, where is he on Monday? He's in the west. Where is he on Tuesday? But you're not going to get much out of it. They can simply parrot the answers by looking at the book and just. But by doing an activity like this, it's much more challenging. You're forced now to think a lot more about what the responses are going to be. Right? So you actually have to look at the map and figure out what's going on in there. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Alright, good. You guess? When you guess? You guess? Oh, yes. Alright. Okay, so, alright. So, and I do have a section on, I think I call challenge activities, right? Where the kids, you get to challenge the kids more than what is presented in the book. So use what they know already and you make a challenging activity, right? Alright, so let's read. So do you remember all of this?
No.
No. Okay, so let's read. Jimmy is in the west on Tuesday. True or false?
He's in the west on Thursday.
Okay, well, I was looking at the date, but you could use the directions one, right? Okay, the last one. Jimmy is from the U.S. This is Notice Thompson. I didn't say anything. Here.
Jimmy.